absolute cinema. This transfer window might genuinely been the best of all time. From window-long sagas to record fees, Instagram crash-outs to hostage situations, this transfer window's had it all, except for Peter Odemwingie being sat in a 1.6-litre turbo. This transfer window has been the greatest, and here's why. It's a mad thing. Fuck it, should I get a tie as well? This brother will do anything but wear an Everton shirt, which has now been ordered. You're gonna see me in it. God, I'm so sorry it hasn't happened yet, I promise it. But at 800,000 subscribers, I've got to get myself a new tattoo, and it's a Liverpool tattoo. So make sure to hit that big button under the video. Where else can we start though, realistically, but with Liverpool? The Alexander Isak transfer saga rumbled on throughout the entire transfer window, critically after Liverpool had already spent 80 million on Hugo Ekitike, and after Arsenal had already signed Victor Gyökeres. Having successfully used all the IQ of a dishwasher to wait until most targets had already been bought, Alexander Isak announced he didn't want to be in Newcastle anymore. Like most other residents of Newcastle who didn't want to be in Newcastle anymore. This after Newcastle fans had laughed about the fact they were going to get Hugo Ekitike instead of us and play a 4-4-2 for both of them.
That went well.
You know what? That's a great idea. We'll actually take it from here. After all the drama, after all the furore, he was announced as a Liverpool player. Newcastle fans saw the announcement a little bit differently, and Newcastle weren't too pleased clearly in their statement. A one-paragraph sentiment that didn't really include any of the things that Isak had actually done for Newcastle, because to be honest with you, he turned his back on them and really ruined his legacy in the space of 1 month. Joe Linton, however, will be taking matters into his own hands and absolutely clamping the Swede when they return for the reverse fixture. You know what, for us Liverpool fans, this is incredible, you know, like a player of his caliber. Can he play centre-back? No, because obviously we missed out on Mark Guehi on deadline day. Yet more drama in an otherwise pretty dramaless transfer situation. Mark Guehi, for all the world, looked as if he was going to be a red as well, only for the deal to collapse because Crystal Palace weren't able to replace him suitably, and for Oliver Glasner to walk in, slap his testicles on the table, and say that he'd be jumping off London Bridge without armbands if the deal went through. The exclusive audio from his meeting with Simon Jordan tells the story.
Here to report a crime, an international war crime.
And the deal was so close to being done, he'd even actually got his announcement and goodbye message to Crystal Palace fans recorded and edited, ready to post. The Palace recruitment team, unfortunately, a little bit distracted as that video was being put together. Of course, Crystal Palace needed him, and I'm not surprised Ollie Glasner said that. Realistically, Mark Guehi is such an instrumental part of Palace's defence and their entire side that if they weren't going to get a centre-back to replace him, that's honestly their chances of finishing in the top 12 completely done. It would have shown absolutely no ambition and the club going backwards, so they made the right decision. It's obviously just heartbreaking for Mark. We did the simultaneous guard of honour for you, man, yeah? When you won the FA Cup, we have been betrayed.
Don't let him do that to
I've been there for you since day one!
Newcastle's transfer window as a whole, though, was a real talking point. These guys got rejected by their first choice, their second choice, their third choice, the kit man, the dinner lady. Them trying to actually get someone on the team bus for this season was starting to get a little bit difficult. All of this drama to recreate Crouch and Defoe up front. To be fair, I kind of rate that. Voltemada and Vissa, I don't know if I have any hope that it's going to work, but it's going to look like vibes, and for that alone, I have to give them props. That until we realised that Voltemada's favourite German footballer of all time is Kai Havertz. Yeah, it's a wrap, guys, before it's even started. Newcastle fans devastated realising every game they play in this season's going to end 0-0. I find it funny that Vissa did pretty much the exact same thing that Alexander Isak did and is now being heralded by Newcastle fans. Isak, of course, who did exactly what Trent Alexander-Arnold did in moving away from Liverpool as well. We're kind of all hypocrites. I feel like it's right to be unhappy with the way that they've dealt with the situation, but then celebrating another guy joining who's done the exact same thing just because he's going the opposite direction. It's just modern football now, unfortunately. Another man that wasn't too happy with the club that he was leaving was Nicholas Jackson. This is honestly my favourite football saga of all time. Hands down, the way this played out was absolute box office. For those that don't know, Nicholas Jackson was on the verge of a loan move, I think with an obligation or at least an option to buy. He'd be heading to the Bundesliga and Bayern Munich. A great move for him. That was until Liam Delap picked up an injury just a few hours before the deal was done, and Chelsea said that he had to come home. The response from his agent was to post all over Instagram and say that planes don't fly backwards, which is an absolute bar. His Boeing 747 was doing all sorts of maneuvers in the sky as Chelsea worked out whether he'd be coming back to London or going to Munich. Chelsea's coaches in the end apologising to his family.
Sorry, Miss Jackson.
And we received our first ever Fabrizio Romano. Here we go again. I think probably sums up Chelsea, to be honest with you, after spending £2 billion. One small injury to Liam Delap completely capitulates their entire transfer window. One man that's still at Chelsea, though, is Raheem Sterling. We might have to rename this guy Raheem Yen at this point. And to be honest with you, that's disrespectful to the entire Japanese economy. This man is on £300,000 a week. Chelsea have been unable to shift him off the wage bill and out of the club. What did Chelsea even do, to be honest with you? I mean, by the looks of things, he's going to join their bomb squad, a selection of players that are not wanted by Chelsea. Raheem is the biggest terrorist in this bomb squad.
About to see the best of me.
After a disastrous loan spell, really, at Arsenal, he's not looking like the gem that he once was at Man City and Liverpool. As a whole, to be fair, it's been a normal Chelsea transfer window. AKA an absolutely batshit mental transfer window. If you're a Chelsea fan, there's actually no point buying a player's shirt, like a shirt with a player's name on the back, because it's going to be irrelevant and obsolete within 18 months. The bomb squad is actually becoming a terrorist organization. They've been radicalized. Speaking of their changing room, it looks like a WWE match. The queue for the toilets looking like the one at Fabric at 2:30 in the morning. And as for Todd Boehly, he already had his statement ready when Enzo Maresca pleaded with him not to sign another 8 wingers instead of a new centre-back.
I've done it. I've done it. I have done it.
Elsewhere, there's been big strikers signed, none less at Manchester United, only to take the 10th penalty against Grimsby. Either the coaches didn't trust him, or he doesn't trust himself to take a spot kick against a group of fishermen. And I'm concerned this could go a Rasmus Højlund way if he doesn't get things together after the international break. There's definitely a bit more pedigree, but maybe we need to start adding some Bundesliga tax. And is there Portuguese league tax on Victor Gyökeres? The guy's got an incredible goal-scoring record and has been pretty impressive internationally and in the Champions League. He looked good for Leeds, but other than that, service has been in short supply, and so far he's reached a top speed of 6 miles per hour. Him trying to run in behind Virgil van Dijk was a sight to behold. The guy was getting moved to whilst he's built like Canary Wharf. That can't happen. Alejandro Garnacho's finally made his move. It means that I don't have to see Fabrizio Romano tweet anymore for a 9th time in a day about the consistency of the shit that Alejandro Garnacho just had. Not enough fiber. Here we go. The blonde trim maybe is being utilized to blind opponents, and once again is yet another scattergun approach by Chelsea. But maybe the kid's actually got some potential to perform at a club that doesn't have a jacuzzi that was built in 1989. But this, ladies and gents, is where I'm going to rank every Premier League team's transfer window. From S to A to B to D for some reason, all the way down to F. Here's how I think your team has performed this summer. We start off with Arsenal, and I'm not going to lie, I think Arsenal have had an absolutely phenomenal window. They've addressed pretty much every position they needed to in terms of personnel that were better than who was there before. Eberezer is better than Martinelli by such a distance. They've even got Madueke now for depth out wide. Victor Gyökeres obviously is better as a goal scorer, or should be, than Kai Havertz and Jesus. Their depth at centre-back has improved, the likes of Mosquera for a really low fee, and also Hincapié, and Norgard as a backup DM is great. Now, the problem with Arsenal is context, right? If you look at that standalone, it's easily an S. The problem is, context-wise, does it give you the idea that they are, like, locked on to win the league? No. And it's kind of harsh because it's based on what other teams have done, which we'll get to in a little bit. I think they could have done better than Gyökeres. In a completely fictional world where they signed Isak instead of Gyökeres, it's the easiest S maybe of all time. And based on that, I'll give them an A, but it's the closest to an SA that you're probably going to see. I shouldn't say S and A next to each other, really. Aston Villa, though, totally different story. These guys are getting the D.
Beg your pardon?
Kind of horrible all round, to be honest with you, and it's not their fault to some degree. PSR and financial regulations have really fisted them, and that really strangles them to the point where they've had to sell before actually bringing players in. The likes of Jacob Ramsey, the Emi Martinez saga not ending in him leaving is actually an L as well. And other than Harvey Elliott and maybe Guesson based on him in France, I don't think any of their signings have been particularly good, I'm not going to lie to you. They weren't able to bring back any of the loanees in Asensio, Rashford or Disasi that helped last season. So for me, poor, not enough planning. Bournemouth, you might be surprised where I'm going here. I'm giving them a B. You might look at this and be like, they've lost their entire defense, but let's be honest, could they really help that? They were never going to keep hold of Højlund and Zabani once Real Madrid and PSG came calling. It's just natural food chain stuff. You can't help that. Kerkez, similarly, going to the Premier League champions. But in terms of the replacements, they've done just about as well as they could have done. They've taken home a sweet profit, even Ouattara leaving as well. They've kept hold of key players like Semenyo and Evan Nilsson. They've got Senesi still, Diakite looks good, their new left back looks good. Petrovic is a downgrade, I think, from Kepa, but overall, they've replaced actually pretty decent. recently, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt under the circumstances. Brentford, no. And this, I'm being harsh because this also includes their backroom staff and management. They have been ripped apart. I think the only place they've actually upgraded is in goal. They've lost a lot of goals and haven't been able to replace them. And a lot of their other signings don't have much in the way of Premier League experience. Their only signing that does is Ouattara, and I think they've overpaid for him. He's only 23, I get that, but 42 mil is a lot of money, and their squad is just worse than it was last season. They're not going to go down, but I think they're going to finish like 16. Brighton are a weird one. They've lost quite a few players that are influential. I mean, the likes of Tariq Lamptey and people like that were never playing anyway. Adingra the same, so I'm not massively stressed about that. They've got more than enough players and brought in more than enough players that will replace those guys. Even Estupiñán has been replaced by De Koipo, I think is really good. João Pedro's the big one though, and I think for me, that's why I'm going to put them in the middle category. I'm not totally sure if they replaced him. You might be surprised by what I'm going to say with Burnley, okay? Because I'm going to put them in the B category. Don't get it twisted, they are firmly bottom half of that category. But again, it's all about context. You can do one of two things as a promoted side these days. You can either attempt to stay up, or you can sign players with the thought that you're going to flip them on for more money when you get relegated. And I think Burnley have done a good job of that specifically. Don't get it twisted, they're not going to stay up. But they've brought in young players with sell-on value. So for that reason, I'm willing to give them middle of the road. Now, we get Chelsea. Honestly, fuck knows. They've done so much and wasted a decent amount of money. There are some astute signings, some good young players in there, like Esteval, like Jarell Harto. João Pedro's come in and been good. Liam Delap was a decent bargain. But there's other signings like Gittins and Garnacho that just don't feel like they make any sense to me based on the players they actually already have. They haven't addressed centre-back after the massive injury to Levi Colwill. I'm putting Chelsea in D, fam. It's better than Villa, don't get it twisted. This doesn't necessarily mean that I think Chelsea are going to be bad this season. I think they're going to finish 4th. I think they'll get Champions League again. But have they improved for all the money they've spent and for all the carnage they've caused? No. So, like, what are we even doing here? Next up are Crystal Palace, and again, I'm maybe going to be a bit nice to them. I'm putting them towards the end of B. The reason for that is they've kept hold of Mark Guehi, and I know that was kind of by force in the end. I don't know whether he'll, you know, throw his toys out the pram, but if they lose him and don't replace him, it's a 1, fam, especially after losing a Berriese. Jeremy Pino is a good player, a good young player, was highly touted a couple years ago, but keeping Guehi is the only reason I've put them in a B. If they'd lost him, they're way down. Next up, though, we're getting erratic. Guys, maybe I'm getting too gassed here. Everton. I'm putting them in S, fam. You know what it is as well? Again, this is context. I genuinely think with the signings they've made, they have put themselves in a real good position to win the mid-table race. I'm not saying get necessarily into Europe, but this is a side that's been all over the fucking place in terms of direction, in terms of recruitment, in terms of managerial appointments for like 5-6 years now, okay? This was a side that inherently used to be in the Europa League under David Moyes. This is the first transfer window I've looked at from Everton and gone, you're actually behaving like a side that wants to try and get into Europe again. Tyler Dibbling may be an overspend, but the kid's got serious potential. Jack Grealish on loan is a lovely signing. They have genuinely addressed key problem areas apart from maybe a striker, unless Tierno Barry really steps up. Keenan Dewsbury Hall is astute as well. I genuinely really like their business. Next up, Fulham. No, did basically nothing. Panicked a little bit on deadline day. They were linked with Kevin from Shakhtar for absolutely ages. They just only got that across the line on deadline day. But after Marco Silva was complaining basically all transfer window, I'm not happy with what they've done. They haven't lost any key players, which is the reason why I'm not putting them in F. Leeds, maybe I'm being harsh again. I'm going to put them in D as well. Definitely upper ends. There's some good signings here. I like Felix Nemecha. I like that wing back they've got in from like Scandinavia, so I can't remember what his name is right now. Is it Rasmussen or Christensen? The main real reason here is there's a few panic buys in here, and they've missed out on a lot of main targets during the transfer window. Ask Leeds fans, they've been quite frustrated with their recruitment and the fact that they've not actually been able to get some deals across the line. That might be the difference between them staying up and not. They kind of had this midway house of not signing players for profit and not necessarily being able to bring in the firepower needed for them to stay up either. Liverpool next. This is probably the easiest one of the lot. It's an S. If we don't win the league, it's a failure. Again, we'll come back at the end of the season and people will go, oh, Kirkes was bad. Maybe that's a bad signing. But on paper, we addressed every single issue. We replaced Trent. We technically got an upgrade at left back. We signed, honestly, maybe the best striker in the league, one of the most promising players in world football, and even signed a young centre-back as well to boot. If we got Guehi, it's the perfect window. Man City, though, I'm not going to lie, I've been a little bit underwhelmed. I'm going to give them a B because I do like Tiani Reinders. I think that can work. And Gianluigi Donnarumma is probably pound for pound the best goalkeeper they could have brought in, but even then, none of their signings really seem to fill the philosophy of Pep Guardiola. It's been a bit of a lost transfer window, kind of apart from Reinders. Cherki's not a traditional Man City player. Gianluigi Donnarumma's not a ball-playing goalkeeper. James Trafford seemed like a bit of a weird one, given they've then gone out and bought another number 1. You've got 4 goalies now. It's been a really weird window. I'm so close to putting them in D because I don't think it's got them to a point where they can win the league. They've not addressed centre-back, which for me is a bit of an issue as well. Manchester United, I'm going to give the same rating, but kind of for slightly different reasons. I actually think the signings they have made have been more positive than Man City's in terms of making the squad better. Their front line is, of course, better. Cunha and Mbeumo. Cunha got injured immediately and said, I've seen the rest of this team, I'm out of here, mate. The main issue for me is they haven't addressed midfield, and I think that's a real problem area for them. But either way, it's not bad. It's a stepping stone, but they could have definitely done more. Newcastle next, I'm giving them a D. Yeah, they've been poor. But yeah, Newcastle mainly just off all the rejections. I actually think they've recovered like relatively well under the circumstances. Elanga was already a good deal. I think from early doors, that was a good transfer. Rejection after rejection after rejection up front. This is on Voltemada, who is not proven over a long period of time in the upper echelons of world football, is a risk, especially given that transfer fee. Nottingham Forest, I'm slapping in the middle tier, but I think it's upper echelons of. It's been a little bit erratic for Forest, but ultimately the likes of James McAtee, Amari Hutchinson, Dan Doy's looked good off the rip as well. It's been, as I said, a little bit all over the place, and they're going to need to gel relatively quickly. But I like some of the business they've done, and keeping Morgan Gibbs-White is definitely a positive as well. Sunderland next, and this is where I'm going to start being nice. They're getting an A from me. I think they've genuinely given themselves a chance at staying up. AFCON is going to absolutely riddle these lot, but up to that point, these lot look good. They've had an easy run to start the season, but I like it. There's a balance of exciting footballers that are young and that have potential and that can be flipped on if they don't stay up, but are good enough genuinely to potentially keep them up. And the leadership of Granit Xhaka is such a good signing. That's so crazy. I'm giving the same rating to Tottenham next up. I have been so impressed by Tottenham. They're actually quite close to an S as well. I just don't think they've quite addressed every single area in this squad, but this is definitely the building blocks to get them back into Europe. Oh, obviously they're in the Champions League now, but I mean as in like to finish there in the league season. Like this is genuinely a transfer window where I could see them maybe finishing 5th, like actually getting Champions League on merit again. Xavi Simons for that price tag is absolutely unreal business. Randall Kolo Muani comes in as striker depth and competition on loan. Great work. Mohamed Kudus has looked really good so far as well. After that, we've got West Ham. I'm gonna put them into D, but honestly, they saved themselves right at the end. Mateus Fernandes is a baller. He's absolutely class. They got an Edson Alvarez replacement coming in from Monaco. Those 2 signings alone keep them out of F, because before that, it was looking shocking. Losing Kudus to Spurs, though, is peak. Like, that's such poor management overall. The management of this squad is poor. I stand by the West Ham video I made, even though they absolutely wrapped up Forest, like, a day later. And finally, we've got Wolves. And I'm not gonna lie to you, lads, I'm putting them in F as well. And it's harsh, right? There's no team, for what it's worth, that's had an absolutely disastrous, no positives transfer window. But I don't think there's any teams that have had a worse transfer window than Wolves and Brentford. And that's basically the reason they're here. They've signed unproven forwards as well. They've signed a guy from Belgium who's banged in goals in Belgium, but again, like, it's such a risk. Like, Strand Larsen has stayed. That's maybe the one positive there. Other than that, though, again, a lack of ambition. They've lost their 2 arguably best players. I think Strand Larsen was definitely in the conversation from last season, but Cunha and Ait-Nouri leaving, Cunha arguably not being replaced, and Ait-Nouri definitely not being replaced is a real issue. But let me know what you think. If you're a fan of a Premier League club, let me know if you agree or disagree down in the comments section. That, though, is going to wrap up today's video, and I hope you have enjoyed it. The best transfer window I've seen in a long time. Absolutely class stuff. Sagas left and right. Big signings all over the place. Really top work, Premier League. Outstanding stuff. As I said, if you enjoyed this video, slap a like on it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.